You never forget the fear.
Seacha bliain ó níthe nacht, níor áirigh le hoachtar is dahad fille a bhaile tar éis Disco Valentine a dúisgurtá clia.
I could never understand why other people got out but not them. They never came home.
Ba polytúil, bíonn sé fisrathe rialtais, ceistena ná freagraíoch.
The truth will come out. Yeah. I know what the truth is.
Feachtas fad an ngailte sonna garta.
Here is a working class community that feels that if it were located in some other parts of Dublin, they wouldn't be left floundering for answers.
Agus in san seacha bliain ó hin, níl éana freagrach as ceantas na tragódí déana is massa is dar na tíre.
Somebody is responsible for my two sisters' deaths. And we'll explore every single avenue till we get justice.
An ine triúláideag de fear an 98 héan, drastal os ciún hochia duine anad áitiúil na Disco Valentine a dúisgurt na catharach. Uair a chléigtar éis an bhainíthe agus comórtas rince ag drid an pandedig, chnachas cóirí tinne I gún an chlub.
Remember, I was dancing on the floor, I was dancing with a few friends, and then there was an announcement by the DJ to say that there's a small fire in the premise, don't panic.
And then he made another announcement, can everyone kindly make their way to the nearest exit? Because the small little fire had gone into an inferno and it was coming right across the ceiling, down on top of everyone.
Within seconds, it just swept through the whole building. I just said, let's get out of here quick.
And there was a rush to get to the exit doors. Myself and my two sisters and two friends was pushed to the ground.
Within seconds, the lights then went.
There's people, young ones roaring and crying and screaming and just collapsing on the ground, and the crowd wasn't moving.
The people were falling down around me, choking, suffocating. It was just like an oven, like standing in an oven.
We were on the floor with being pushed and we were holding hands. I lost consciousness and I think my sisters did as well, because we couldn't breathe.
Bhí raircanna anna bhá taobh agus lasmód an Stardust nuair a chuis na háir cháirna agus na henal dótán an láthir. Dénach iireachtaí an tine a chur faoi smacht, agus iad siúd a bhí sáinithe agus muachta in narachad is an nuirgan a bh chuirt sláán.
There was people on the inside of the toilet windows, banging on them, actually banging and screaming, while burning, there is out.
You could feel yourself burning, it was intense at that stage. I eventually got across to this particular area where I heard a lot of people screaming and kicking, and eventually a door opened up out the back.
The next thing I remember then was being outside the building. An ambulance man came up to me and he said, "Do you have to go in the ambulance?" And I said, "No." I said, "I can't go." I said, "Mary and Martina and Mary Kenny and Helen, they're all in there." He said, "Everyone's gone, they're all out, they're gone to the hospital."
Le breacha an le dúisgurt na catharach, lá éile Valentine 98 héan, chúisig pobl mágúir dar daine, agus a go tromlathe is massa fíorithe, bhí an náisiún suaite le thuaifáis na nuachta.
At least 40 people have died in a fire which destroyed the Stardust Club at Artane in Dublin early this morning. More than 100 people have been taken to hospital, many of them suffering from serious burns and other injuries. The victims, mainly in their teens.
Níana mé darmad ar riamh, gus a fecinn amach muinneog, thar an cathair agus déiteach mé tuisgurt an catharach eáil agus ceapas go raibh hí scáil air. Scannal a bhí an in áir bhís tóga, ba ceap me gur datach a bhí an, ba bhéit an fós an datach a eáil thar tuisgurt na catharach. Agus bhí an cathair ciún, álas go raibh gachéine brónach agus I fearra ar an nuacht seo. Agus dar nó I rihan lei, go raibh na sonraí a tacht, hí na anamnachait agus a ísina, cé go ógus a bhí siad. Agus na aglah le na tiismóirí a bhí fósa dul ó ospidéal go ospidéal a lorug a chlán.
And what is the condition of your son in this hospital?
Both his hands are very badly burned, and he's in a complete state of shock, you know. I didn't tell him that the other brother is missing. You know.
So at this stage you don't know where he is?
We don't know where he is, no. I just don't know. I presume he's dead, to be honest with you.
Ní dóna go neanna aon duine a bhí beo an uair sin, darmad go deo ar na raircan na uafásacha. Is cuminn am sa mar hampla go raibh an eirit sin corp gá dúirt ag teach na marmh i lár na carach go raibh ortha pobl a chur suas taobh hir de heach na marmh agus daoine teacht fechant a bheitadéis a mic nó a nininacha nó ngéalta ahand.
Déag hochtar is dahad a duine an Stardust a bhar mhór idir 8 bliana déag agus 5 bliana is fiche. Tuigh go luagar of ceantas na tragódí déana is massa is stair na tíre tar éis tórlú. Níor bada an gníomh politúlaigh tacht.
I knew many of them. They're from all around here, from Donecarney, Artane, Coolock, Beaumont. This is my native parish, and
can you say just how much you know at this stage about the fire and the background to it, Taoiseach?
It's too early yet to come to any conclusion about it.
Sna léanta lean an tobaiste, bhí ráircan na cuine agus folingt nimhnach le feiscinnte dúisgur dá clia. Drámóg an cheantar á chur I gré na cile.
Ní acha aon duine le clia ná sa tír. Sacradí mar a honigmuid na léanta tar éis an dóitang sa Stardust. Mar ní bháin gur daoine gá gur an éilecha lá ní lé ach gur bert na trúr drifúracha, dritharacha, lán teile a folingt agus a golagáin.
Death is always hard, but there seems to be something almost unnatural about parents who bury their children. They were called home early by God.
It's heartbreaking, really and truly heartbreaking to talk about. Dreadful it is. The kids just can't talk, they just look at one another and cry. Nobody has any idea of the tragedy.
I grew up with people that had been killed. I went to school with them. They're gone. I've seen them in the disco that night and been talking to them. And you don't go into a disco and say to yourself, you're not going to come out of it. It hasn't hit me.
Bhíidir siúd a bhí ag tacht chua hain san ospidéal ó ghartathe scábhóga agus dó omlán anólach ar scála na tragóide.
I think I was on the recovery and a priest came in and he approached me and he just said, "What's your name?" I said, "I'm Anthony Keegan." And he said, "Oh, that's right." He said, "Your 2 sisters died in the fire." And I said, "No, they didn't." He said, "They did." And I said, "They didn't." I said, "Mary's in the matter and Martina's in the maid." And he said, No. He said, "They're buried now." And I just went hysterical. I screamed the place down. And I said, "No." I said to them, "No." But my mother and father had been told not to say anything because of the condition I was in. I said, "How many more?" I said, and my father said there was quite a lot.
Agus an pobl a géirigh tachtaníir ar an bhris, taringíoch order an bhirgnamh, halla rinke a chóirithe ó bhannacha sive cúpla bliain réime sin. Lean fisrachan na ngordaí agus fógraíoch bíonse fisrathe.
The government inquiry into the fire will have to examine a number of important issues. The allegations being made by a number of witnesses who were in the club on Friday night that they noticed someone setting fire to seating. Were all the emergency exits open at the time of the fire? These and other questions will have to be answered.
Agus ráflíigh scapa maidir le cúis na tinne, ordaíoch ceistena. Cén fágur of dacarach díag an irit an daoine éilú ón bhuirig of lasrach.
The truth will come out.
Yeah.
I know what the truth is. and it's very serious.
Well, and what about the doors? Were they all open?
All
or closed?
open, every single door in the place was open.
So you're saying categorically all the exit doors were open?
Categorically, all the exit doors were open.
I see.
Everything will come out. When this inquiry, that's what the inquiry is for. And the truth will come out. That's all I'm interested in, is the truth.
Bhí an bhíonse fisrithe site leistigh de sí seachtaí.
Sílim gra muintear na tíre sás na goiteine nuair a bunaíonn fistrachan go tapaí caithfar a chinnte agus cinnte an fistrachan nach dar le lehéad a ríist.
Bhar bíonse fisrithe cín ar bhaid ciad sa feitheadh dó lá, dé sé le féanaise ó tíchead agus sa seasca tíí né. Ina bhreithúna sa fáil sé an 1982, bhí sé díanaar na tepanna ar bhí ar bhórdas blá clia ina measc, asnamh sa réalacha pleanála agus sa chiigeacht pleanála. Cáineach an Ryan cóhíil de bhór neamhanúlacht na seirbhísí dótán agus aspa tréanála sa bhriga dótán. Cháin sé leis únéirí agus locht banistíochta an Stardust féin.
Dúirt cín go bhétá an láthair sin a glána taobhiste de gáóméid go le, domar a go raibh na dúir sé ar fad in san áit ceart, oscailte, agus dá meic is ag an furan cad le déanamh. Fuair mar amach go raibh doras amháin faoi glas ina omláin, go raibh gá doras eile cé nach raibh siad faoi glas nach bhéit bhí iad oscailt tuis go raibh rudaí choristeachartha. Agus bhí dúirsí eile go raibh sláiríartha ag choratha go raibh siad faoi glas. Ná ní raibh siad faoi glas, ba ceapá go raibh siad faoi glas. So chuir sé sin muoile ar gach aine.
Rinne tuairis chuir síos an chuimseach ar Eilean Stáit, ar lochtainna an dlí, ar lochtainna pleanála, ar lochtainna cigireachta agus ar lochtainna sa bhrigáid tine. Mar hapla rud bunasach a léirise, nach ra íalach ar na botterlís, plán a chur ar fáil don bhrigáid tine, agus go mé chisacha céim sort legan amach a bhí ar bhrí na tíbhistí, sin ólas nach ra ag an bhrigáid tine a bachóir a haca, agus fáilí an tortin ar go leorlór bailí a léirú go géir agus go thomláin i dúiris an bhíonse fisrithe.
Cé go rialigh bíonn sé cín go raibh na húnéirí agus an Stáit lochtach a réan ar líon na marimh. Bhí scialta na bhínéithe faoi cén áit agus cén fár thostaigh an tine ag tacht slachar chéile. In anón sain chóirle agus fisrachan, fós ní raibh an bhíonse in an bonús na tine a aimsiú, agus rialigh an dreibh cín.
Nevertheless, it is the view of this tribunal that the origin of the fire was in all probability arson.
Hégan ort crí nach raibh éon fíneise ar chorbe ar conas na chosnig an tine seag. Tháinig sé an túram gur dosníoch dagan óé, in aspa fíneisna. Agus dar nóé chuir sé seo isteach go mór ar na clín, ar siúd a bhar as agus clíní siúd ar fuórbás. Mar cílig sé sin gur duine éigen a bhí ann an ihe sin a chosnig an tine seo. Agus ní ra bhéint fíneise faoi siad.
My father said probable arson. He said, how is this happening? Arson, he said. The blame on us, he said. And Butterley was to blame for taking the shortcuts. Dublin Corporation for giving him the planning permission. And also the Department of Environment. The whole lot was responsible for the deaths of my two sisters and all the rest of them victims.
Chialig an tara go dóhí gur lásach an tine go máilíseach, gur raibh clán Botterley in níosábal de cúte bhil ar go chóirlachún de á clia, do go máistí máilíseacha ar láthir an Stardust. Brunach nach mór 600,000 púntartha. Ach ní éitach tailig Stardust a hiiscint, cén fá nach raibh imachtaí dlíthúla á Dunscnamh i le bás agus gartú a glán agus a gárde.
Reckless negligence leading to death is the basis for the charge of manslaughter in Irish law. In the light of the conclusions of Mr. Justice Keane as quoted, we have sent the following letter to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Eamon Barnes.
Ordaíoch ceisna go náisiúnta chomh maith, cén fá nach raibh éina cúise i lena tine.
Brian, I just finished this, please. The situation is that it was probably caused by malicious action.
Minister, the Justice said in his report there is no evidence of an accidental origin and equally no evidence that the fire was started deliberately. He only talked about probability. And he talked about the certainty of the irresponsibility of the owners and their responsibility in regard to the death, irrespective of how the fire happened. Do you take the view now that there should be a criminal prosecution?
That's a matter for the Director of Public Prosecutions. It's not for me, and it would be totally improper for me to make a comment on that.
Ní leon freigra againn céim fáin cúisíigh aine os cóna cuairtena carúla maidir leis seo. Tá daoine anamnathe i tuairis cín go bhhéadhí cúisimh a chur ina le. Beidir gur bé tuis gan meascán de cúisina a bhí leis an tragóid. Cé nach raibh sé riomh soléir chuna san thosaigh an tine. Bhí cín soléir faoi seo nar a bheith an tine an cúis leis na báisina in áiríomh. Bé an meascán de rudaí. Agus beidir gur bé sin an fáin ar curach. But ní higann fós céim fáin ar cur a bhín cúisimh maidir leis na bhailí techniúla, le na brisí techniúla ar an slí a bhí dampa intanát i le únéirí na háite agus freisin I fiigh I mór sa clia, agus bhí fine se maidir lei sin.
Sna seachtaí agus na míana a lean, bhranna gailta go raidir licithe in Narúd. Thógad ar cás na cúitimh a gcuine an chailúnt agus gartathe a bhí fallingtecha, ach bhí muoilethe sa chuairt. Bhain idir cisteach an brúachair ar an rialtas clúas a thuairt dá go éileh.
And I make no apologies for looking for compensation for my seriously injured child.
Correct.
No apology whatsoever.
That's correct. And that's what I like to hear.
There is people, parents at the moment, that suffer from nervous breakdowns. The whole behaviour at home, mothers and fathers can't speak to each other. The strain will have to stop. This thing will have to be finished once and for all. And that's the end of that.
The days turn to weeks, the weeks turn to years, our laws favour the rich, so it appears.
Thug an táránní Christy Móracha takeíochtad an gás, nuair is scríg sé árán faoi Shragóid an Stardust, dá album Ordinary Man. Ach cheirigh Christy dúirthain lena chud lyricí. Ciúntaíoch é le díosbeag a cuairte, mar go raibh implachtaí dlíthúla ag an árán ar chásanna a bhí fós sa túl. Ní tugach mór an éine os cur cuairte maidir le tine Stardust, ach tugach Christy. Cheap na tailig go raibh dead le na dréal an 1985, nuair a bhanig an taoiseach Garrett Fitzgerald bíonn sé cúitimh, le go níochadíist airgid leo siúd a gartaíoch sa tine, agus le tailig na níbertach.
I think there's a lot of practical sense.
Ach I ghlacha le cúitimh ó mínse, bhíidir gur dead le na gart é an chás eile dlíthúla hógant in ag na tragóide. De ghlach golóracha leis an gine sin.
People were afraid back then. Like, you had a solicitor saying to you, I think you're better off going with this compensation. You're not going to have the high costs and the risks that's involved with a court case, because if you lose, you'll have to pay. And if you can't pay, you could lose your home.
It was never about the money to begin with. Like, to sustain injuries that I sustained, there's no money you can compensate for it. My father at the time was dead set against it. He didn't want me to settle. He always said that they're just dangling the carrot on the stick. He said you should really take them to court and go down that route. But I didn't, and you can't have regrets. You can't live in the past, because that's just nowhere for you. Because if I was to regret that, I wouldn't move on with my life, you know? And I have to do that.
Ins na blianta ó hinna le, tá go leor do Ghaelta Stardust leanta leis an bheachtas chun carta a gháil dó siúd is sciobach sa losca is dó in 1988. Cimeádan na planan na Ferber agus an spéis gnó sa láthir síomh na tragóide ina chnámh spáirna de locht na hagóide, go háirithe ar lácha mór a Valentine.
It's an indictment on our government that it hasn't given to anyone that lost children a closure that they wouldn't need to express themselves in this way.
Tar éis blianta I man feachtais, tharla dulchan cín suantasach in anar 2007, nuair a bharrtaigh an rialtas tástáil DNA a dhéanamh ar chuigear a déag, curtha gan aithne. Sé bliana is fihead, téist a bheith sínta sa flotta céanna. Sí na blianta chimead ord na meán cás an Stardust a gcuine na naoine, san áibh drama conspóideach comisiúnathe ag RTE.
Both of them? No, Jesus, no. Don't say that! Don't you say that!
Agus clárdaach ag prime time a chur féine sin nua agus sanála sa láthir a bhí bailithe ag na tailig.
Well, if you thought the Stardust disaster was history, then think again.
Chágan nuacha an chlár cóirí ceiste Annalise vonú na ngordaí agus thoirí bhíonn se fisrathan réaltais.
If you have the location of the fire wrong, you are looking at a totally different fire.
Faoi dheire I míúil 2008, tar éis díon bhrú os na Gaeilge, dógur an Taoiseach Bertie Ahern go manófaí inúcha neamhsblach chun an fianaise nua a bha, salar dóg bhí an cinenne fisrachan nua a chur sa tiúil.
Tar éis don ácóid Paul Coffey a chuid taide a dhéana agus inúcha dhéana go neamhsblach, chuir sé tuairis go bhráid an réaltas dúirt sé fech ní léir domsa goil fianna seán a thiúrach takeíocht de isrúchan nó, ní donna goil dóhan fianna se nóán. Ach dúirt sé freisin gur chóir réiteach a bhaib uafásacha dag an chéadmhíonn se fisrathe a chur a bhaim gan bhfuil gur chóir don réaltas a rá sa dáil fech níl éon aonis an a chruthach gur a duine be a bhí sa Stardust an ihe sin freigrach as an dóitán.
De réir má hiiscinte bééis seo an céadúir is starna tíre seo gur cearttííoch tuairis ó bíonn se fisra. Seo an céadúir agus an tainúir gur tharla sé seo. So is bu mór é seo de Muintir Stardust gur éirí gló an finding seo a chur le taobh.
Every obstacle that got in our way, we fought back against it, and we were determined that we were going to get justice for the 48 victims. And we feel things can only get better now for us.
Over the moon over it, I can't stop crying. I'm just delighted that we've got justice for our children.
Tar éis an bhreithúnas gur dóthaí gur lasach an tine go máilíseach a chur namhnaí, bhí cúis ceiliúra a cosisiúda bhíag tríd chomh fada san na níorne. Ach bhí go leor a dímach nuair tugach le fis a dúiris Paul Coffey nach raibh go leor fianna se ann chun an cása a is rú.
I felt let down. I just felt that we've so much more evidence now. Surely we can get a proper answer at this stage. It's good to get probable arson removed. But then what caused it? How did it happen? You know, who's accountable? You know, people need closure so they can move on. These people need answers and they do need them. But I don't know if they'll get them in my lifetime.
Na daoine seo a bhí hena féin críomhrichte, caithfidh go bhfuil sé chomh frustrating sin. Níl freagraíocha agus níl freagracht. Agus sé an rud atá ann inis ná seans má nach méríomh, mar tá sé tá nómarcha am caite agus tá nómarcha den rudaí a bhí ann ag an am cailte inis. Go minic tepan ar an choras tlí ceart na féin a thuirt do dhaoine, agus go minic tepan sé ar freagraí a thuirt do dhaoine. I bríonn sé go hanamh I roinnt cásanna, but stáilm sa gur seo ceandas na cásanna inar hep ar an choras tlí.
Seocha blian tar éis tine lá éile Valentine sa Stardust, tá roinnt a bhainte na níbertach fós am an feachtais chuna garta a bhaint amach. Tá ag leraga is rú ar an tine. Tá a gás a thuirrtaach ag an chuirt Eorpach cheart a déana, agus tá sé de gimpií ar an stáit, leiscéal ifigiúla chahailthe.
Sílim go nachraíonn gach choras tar éis tubaiste agus darraíonn choras sa tíir seo an teirbhís dóiteán mar hampla. Ach cuimhnaí ar na sean cheisne a chur an gachtainna faoi gach fisrachan mór, a bhfuil aon duine chur a brísú níl, a bhfuil aon duine ar garú fiáil artha níl, a bhfuil aon duine treis a fosta chailint maiall ar tharla níl. Sin mar tharla sa Stardust agus go dtí go mbeadh tora fónta siléir díon a gás daoine bhí freigrach as fáilí nó as rudaí nar chóir a tharla agus a tharla mar a dárlíonn sin ní féidir rágur ólamúid na ceachtainna ba chóir ólam.
St. Valentine's Day comes around once a year. All our thoughts turn to love as the time it draws near.
It's coming up to the 30th anniversary now, and it seems as though it only happened yesterday. We feel that we have been forgotten. We feel we've been abandoned. They were our brothers, our sisters, our loved ones. They had a right to life, and their right to life was taken away. And we'll explore every single avenue till we get justice.
The 48 children that never came home.
30 years on, you're not going to stop fighting?
No. I could never do that to my sisters or my father. I could never do it. I'd never abandon them.
But the injured were abandoned year after year. Seems our leaders shed crocodile tears. compensation and legal fees paid to the barristers and Butterlees. But then poppin' Tree Cabra, Coolock and Artane, the promises were broken, the help never came. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to years, our loss favour the rich, or so it appears. A mother still waits for her kids to come home. Injustice breeds anger, and that's what was done. Let us remember the suffering and pain, the survivors and the victims of the fire in our town. Mothers and fathers forever to mourn. The 48 children that never came home.